energy storage devices, and then can power their electronic gadgets. So let me share my slide. I hope this is visible now.
It is visible. It is better that you can make full screen.
Yeah, that I'm going to do it. It is taking some time.
Yeah, okay, no problem, no problem.
Right. So energy storage device is powder to power, and I will be categorically will be discussing about role of nanostructured materials, how one can use nanostructures, fabrication of nanostructures, and then can be utilized for energy storage devices. So I have I will be discussing about some sort of introduction of energy storage devices, in which some background would be given. Then I will talk about fabrication and optimization of various nanostructures, and then how one can fabricate device, and then we will see how one can change some of the matrix element into the material and can get the different type of properties. That is my actually presentation. So if we look at humanity's top 5 problem for the next 100 years: energy, water, food, environment, poverty. And they are interlinked: energy, water, and environment, poverty. And if you look at the energy is on the top, right? So energy can be of different type, and energy is a utmost requirement for all nation, including India. And if we look at why energy is very much related, then energy can be obtained by multiple of type of ways, in which you have power stations, transport fuels you can use, and then fossil fuel based energy is there. This both type of energy will give you environment problem, a green gas house emission, and therefore they will increase sort of carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide into the system, and therefore we need to look for some renewable energies. And then renewable energies, if you have renewable, means there is no sort of bad impact on any of the sort of environment, or wherever you don't have any side effect or no byproduct. Those type of energy resources are known as the renewable energy resources. So if we have plenty of renewable energies, then we need to connect them to some of the renewable energy. For example, we have renewable energy, hydro and solar. Right. Some of the people say nuclear energy also comes under renewable energy, but there is a side effect related to the human health accident, so that does not consider into this. But renewable solar energy, hydro and wind power, that energy can take into this category and can be utilized for further dissemination. So our country's renewable energy sector is looking at least to attract around 200 billion US dollar for investment in coming years. The Indian government aims to have 1 lakh megawatt of installed solar power capacity by just next year from 3000 megawatt presently we have. So this difference you can achieve unless until you utilize energy storage devices, because energy storage devices will reduce the mismatch in generation of energy and utilization of energy. So this will give you a solution. I mean, the peak hours can be compensated by the peak hours requirement can be supported by energy storage devices, and therefore these are extremely important to collab with. For example, how we can collab? Actually, if you look at these are the three, the right side we have so these are the three renewable energies resources. One is solar energy, hydro energy and wind energy. So if you look at all these three energy has some shortcoming in terms of intermittency. Intermittency means you cannot have supply continuously. They are affected by, for example, solar energy. If you don't have sunlight, then you cannot generate solar energy. If you don't have elevation of water, or if you don't have water quality, water storage capability and height, then you cannot utilize turbines to run. Therefore, this is also very much related to the geographical position. Wind energy is also related to whenever you have winds, then only this energy will be utilized. So intermittency is a big problem with these type of energy resources. Electricity storage bank, which we call battery, that can be utilized whenever you want to utilize it. So this is we call microgridding. Microgrids can be made, so that can be small colonies can be supported by this type of electricity storage banks. So essentially, storage capacity or batteries or anything which can store the energy is very important to invent. So in that sense, it is really important, and we know that you have different type of energy storage devices, and very important energy storage we call electrochemical energy storage technologies. Electrochemical energy technologies means in this case you have electro plus chemical. I mean, there is a movement of electron and then some chemical reactivity will take place. Therefore, it will give so it will electricity and electrochemical means electron movement plus some chemicals are getting changed. So that type of storage devices are known as where you have sort of electron movement or a chemical change occurs. Those type of technologies we know energy storage technologies. And the best examples are fuel cells, batteries and supercapacitors. Batteries and supercapacitors are known for, I mean, every segment of these energy storage devices is known. For example, fuel cell is known for high energy, extremely high energy density. Battery is known for moderate energy, moderate power, and supercapacitor is known as for high power capability. My name, what do you mean by energy and power? Someone can say that if you want to run a marathon, then energy is required for long time, right? Marathon means at least 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers you have to run. So energy is required. But if you want to run a 100-meter race, then high power would be required. So this means if you have ability to deliver energy with a very short time, this that type of energy storage devices is known as high power enabled devices. So supercapacitor comes under that category. Why supercapacitor? You can imagine it is nothing but it is a capacitor. In simple electric capacitor, you have two layers, two plates. In between two plates, you have a dielectric material where this energy can be stored into a dielectric material. But in this case, this is also a sort of a capacitor, but this interlayer occurs at an atomic level. So the distance between these two layers is of the order of angstrom. Therefore, the capacitance of supercapacitor comes of the order of always comes of the order of your hundreds of farad. So hundreds of farad capacitance is huge as compared to millifarad and microfarad. So electric capacitor, static capacitor are usually known for low capacitance. But the supercapacitor will always have a capacitance of 100 of the order of 100 farad gram or 500 farad per gram. So that is the difference. And the battery contains three type of usually electrodes, two type of electrode, and there will be one electrolyte. So one is cathode, one is anode. So some chemical reaction occurs at cathode, which will liberate some electron, which will go from the outer circuit, and the ions will go from the inner circuit, and they will enter into the anode. So this we call rocking chair. So batteries is known for rocking chair, means you supply, so some electron starts from cathode, they enter into the anode, and lithium will also get recombination at the anode side. So one is known for cathodic reaction, one is known for anodic reaction. This means one oxidation takes place, another electrode is known for reduction. So that's what the electrons will move.
Sir, your voice is not audible.
So, Professor Sharma, I think that you are not audible now.
Hello.
Yes, please continue. Continue. Please continue. Yeah.
Sir, your voice is not audible. Your voice is not audible.
You are not audible now. Yes, please. Probably that there is some connection problem at your end. Okay, okay. There is some connection problem. So let us wait. Dr. Ray Prakash, let me know why and when he is joining. Because probably again that I have to give the presenter status. Yeah.
Is
Yes,
it?
please. Yeah, yeah. Yes, please. Now you can present. You can share your PPT. Yeah.
Am I
Yeah,
audible
yeah.
and my
Yeah,
screen
it
is
is
visible?
visible. It is visible.
Okay,
Please.
sorry, there was some internet connection probably at either at my end or your end, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Please
So
continue.
so battery and supercapacitor are widely being explored these days because everyone want to use electric vehicles. So electric vehicles had some actually challenges with the existing batteries or storage devices. Challenges are they are of high cost, safety is a issue, durability is also a issue, and operational problem. Operational problem means how to, if let's say if you want to have electric vehicle and you want to run electric vehicle for 400 kilometer, we don't have any battery at present of the electric vehicles which can support our electric vehicles for say 400 kilometers. So that's what the problem still arises with a different way, but people are trying to improve their capabilities in terms of design and development of those different type of energy storage devices. So storage properties mainly depends upon the electrode materials. Yeah, so storage properties. So storage property mainly depends upon the electrode material. Why? Electrode materials almost contribute to around 50% of total cost. 50%, that is cathode and anode both. And in principle, cathodes are more responsible than the So if we want to design a better battery, battery or supercapacitor, what we need to do actually, we need to see three different type of criteria. I would say that first is material selection, how to select a material. Let's say you want to start some sort of research in energy storage devices. What should be your target? The target should be the material must be cost effective. It should not be expensive. Otherwise, doing research is a useless. So this should be cheap material, cost effective. The next one is environmental compatibility. You should not use any toxic material because all industry wants a cheap material, cost effective material, should not have any impact on environment. Further, you should have a structure of a material where some voids and gaps exist so that you can have a better transport of ions or electrons through the material. So based on this, you can select a material. We call material selection. Then material processing. Material processing means, again, if you want to utilize your material, if you want to transfer the battery technology, if you want to transfer this to someone else, then it has to be a process, must be cost effective, environmental viable, scalable, and high order of reproducibility. I mean, now these are the very critical point, order of reproducibility. For example, you make something in your lab. If somebody wants to make the same thing in a same way, then he may have some problem. So to minimize the problem, you should adopt a technique by which your reproducibility can be increased, and reproducibility and scalability both are very important. So if you want to work in nanostructure or nanotechnology, then you need to think for having a material which can be reproduced as much as you can, and the process you must have a reproducible, and that's what material processing would be good. Then in this case, when we talk about material processing, then the material must have some beneficial morphological features. Those features are pores, surface area of material, alignment. Alignment means you have an isotropy, etc. into the material, or you can make the material of high aspect ratio. Those type of materials processing are required. The another one is what should be further person should look for materials performance and testing. I mean, when you start doing some research, you need to think that material must be cost effective. The next one is the material can be processed with the EG method, with the scalability, with the reproducibility, and then it must have some features by which you can have extra storage of ions into them. And then materials performance and testing play a very important role into that. So if you want to have a material good performance means energy density. Density will be of two types: volumetric energy density and gravimetric energy density. Gravimetric energy density means energy per unit kg per unit gram. That is a gravimetric energy density. Energy per unit volume, that is volumetric energy density. So these type of things are very important for you people to decide whether this type of energy density, power density, rate capability means your battery or your energy storage devices can run on different type of currents. Say you want to charge your battery or supercapacitor in a 1 hour time, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, like that. And cyclability is a durability. So if we want to utilize or if we want to increase energy density, then essentially we need to have a better energy storage enabled material. Then we need to look for how we can increase the energy density, power density, etc., etc. Then we have different strategies people have tried into the literature. One is nanostructuring strategy. When you make some particles, nanoparticles, nanotubes, nano seeds or nanostructures, then you may have sort of intrinsic voids or gaps. You can have good pores or surface area or anisotropy into the material. Both the things will be important. And then because of those nanoscale benefits, your performance may be better. Another techniques we call surface modification. Surface modification in that sense, you need to do some sort of a coating on a material, so the active material will be coated with some surface modulator, so the surface properties of the material can be changed. That's what people have used. Another one is hybrid composite design. You can make sort of a composite where you can increase this material selection and processing, where pore, surface area and transports can be increased. So the micro hybrid composite design people try. Another one is dopant manipulation. Some of the properties, physical properties, can be changed by dopant manipulation. It means you do some doping, etc. And then you can diffusion, lithium ion diffusion control or any ion diffusion control can be done by all these structuring, surface modification, etc. So ultimately, when you talk about which type of structuring, which type of strategy is better, so people talk about nano strategy is easier and acceptable throughout the world. In that sense, you can say that electrode architecture design you can make one-dimensional conducting network, two-dimensional conducting network, and three-dimensional conducting network. So there are benefits, there are some advantage and disadvantage for each of the networks. So let us see how you can increase energy density of a device. Energy density is nothing but half CV square. C is a capacitance, V is a voltage. So you need to, if you want to increase the energy density of any device, you need to increase the capacitance of electrode material, and then you can increase voltage of the device. This you can do by two ways. So if you want to increase the energy, if you want to increase the capacitance of the material, capacitance can be increased by two ways. You change the morphology of a material, that is a surface area and pores, and then the structural and transport properties of the material. Voltage can be changed by electrolytes, means ionic radii, by ionic compound, which will have different electrochemical stability and ionic conductivity. So this voltage is extended voltage, electrolyte is useful, and here C, capacitance, is useful. So ultimately you have high surface area, porosity, structure and transport properties of the material. Then you can actually have high voltage. So ultimately you can increase total energy density. Then if we want to increase the capacity or morphological features, then what we need to do, or if you want to combine together, you can use sort of a hybrid supercapacitor that I will discuss in detail later. So let us see first, we want to use nanotechnology. Why a person should use nanotechnology? Because of high surface area will enable. This will give you better contact between electrode and electrolyte. Then better adaptability to the strain, means better cyclability or durability will be improved. In that sense, short path length. Path length means ionic transport will be faster. So ionic transport will be faster. This means you can charge, discharge your cell or your energy storage devices at a faster rate. Because if the length is smaller, Then if the length is small, then you can move at a faster rate. So if you talk about how a person can make nanomaterials, then in that case you can have different type of particles. You can have nanorods, nanotube and nanowire. Sort of different type of particles or nanostructures you can make. But in my opinion, one-dimensional structures are very much interesting because of their dimensionality dependent functional properties. Dimensional dependent functional properties, one can realize here that if a ion will come into different structures where you have nanoparticles, nanorods and nanofibers, so what you will find that the movement of ion or movement of foreign ions or species is faster in case of nanofibers. So in that sense, I mean, how one can say, because in nanofibers you have dimensionality more, high aspect ratio more, porosity more, and therefore can effectively decline the surface energy, reduces the aggregation possibility of active material. Therefore, nanofibers are better in this case. Why? Because the interparticle resistance, if you talk about this particle to this particle you have gap, so jumping and then interparticle resistance is higher in this case. In this case you have a smaller, and in this case you have minimum. So these nanofibers have all particles are connected, having voids gaps where you can pour your electrolytes. So contact area will increase. If contact area will increase, this means flux of ion or electron will be faster. Therefore, you can have a better device by which you can have a faster, what should I say, faster response can be obtained in case of nanofiber. So this type of system, in this case, you can have in nanostructures. Now the problem comes why high aspect ratio, aligned and dimensional porous nanofibers are important. So you can say these are the nanofibers. So the size is like 100 nanometer. So each particle is ranging in 30 to 40 nanometers. So these particles are interconnected like a skeleton, and then you have gap. See, everywhere you have gap. So this gap will help us. Why? Wettability means wettability, percolation of electrolyte. Electrolyte is usually a liquid. When you pour liquid electrolyte into such type of device, such type of electrode, so it will percolate into the interior of that. Therefore, wettability will increase. Another one is high ionic flux. High ionic flux, ion will be faster, which will reduce electrode electrolyte impedance. Minimum interparticle resistance from here to here. You don't need any extra benefits. You don't need any extra particles. So you have minimum interparticle resistance here. You can have an increased surface area. This is also one of the good example of this surface area. That surface area will increase because inner as well as outer. If you have a solid nanoparticle, so only the external surface area will be accessible to the electrolyte. However, in this case, these particles, this electrolyte will go into the deeper, and then both the side, inner as well as outer, everything will be accessible. So as a result, total amount of capacitance or total amount of material will be utilized. Then you have morphological voids gaps. So morphological voids gaps means you have high intercalation and deintercalation means insertion and deinsertion of your material. In this case, ions can be stored at a surface. So voids gaps will be good into this case. Then voids works as buffering space. When you cycle or when you charge discharge your material, when you cycle or you make a device, how does this nanostructure will help us? So stress and strain developed during cycling, during charging and discharging will reduce the total strain, and therefore this type of voids will be helpful. So this we have justified that the nanofibers having high aspect ratio, alignment and one dimensionality and porous nanofibers are good for energy storage devices, particularly for supercapacitors where wettability, high ionic flux, etc. will be improved. So what are the different methods actually we have these days? So because we know we have clearly said that the nanofibers are good for devices, but what are the different methods you can make these devices? That becomes very important for us. So if you look at different methods we have drawing method. So drawing method is a laboratory type of method. Can we process scaled up? No. Do we have repeatability? No. Convenient to process? No. Control on fire dimension? No. So this method people have tried to make nanofibers, but because of these problems, it was not further taken. Then the second method is template synthesis method. Template synthesis method is good, but the problem is it cannot be scaled up because template is expensive and you need to purchase always these templates. The next one is phase separation. Phase separation is also one of the good technique, but it cannot be scaled up. It has good repeatability. It can be convenient to process, but fiber control on fiber is not there. Then self-assembly is also one of the technology by which you can use. The last one is electrospinning. Electrospinning is a good technology. You have everything by which you can use it as a first choice to utilize this electrospinning setup to fabricate nanofibers of your choice. So what actually electrospinning method is an easy, scalable, cost-effective and highly reproducible method in which you use some polymer. So polymer can be PVP pen, DMF4 pan and water for PVA. And then let us say I want to fabricate a metal oxides of manganese. Then what I need to do, I need to take some salt, which is a manganese acetate. If you want to make some sort of a ternary compound, for example, zinc ferrite, manganese ferrite, or CO2, for anything you want to fabricate, then those of salts will be taken. I mean, how does it work? This is a simple schematic of electrospinning setup. You have here a hypodermic syringe in which you insert a polymer solution mixed with some metal salts, and then you apply some voltage. That voltage of the order of high voltage of the 20 kilovolt. What happens when you apply a voltage to this polymer? It will be electrified and then it will start coming from this nozzle. This nozzle, and then it becomes like this nanofiber seed. So nanofibers will come from this seed. What are the forces on which this nanofibers which will act. Those are the three forces. One is surface tension, which will try, because it is a polymeric solution. So polymer solution will try to keep all the material combined together. And then another case is electrostatic repulsion, and then you have a Coulombic attraction. So in this case, these three type of material will be useful for, three type of different forces will act on this surface, and then you will get some sort of nanofibers. So to decide whether you will be able to have a good nanofibers or not, you have different parameters. One is process parameters, another is system parameters. Process parameters is how much voltage you are applying between these nozzles to this, that is electric potential. Flow rate and concentration of polymer, distance between the needle and collector, and ambient temperature parameters. Ambient humidity and air velocity in the chamber will play a very important role. And then we have diameter of stainless steel and needle. So that will give you some idea how does a person can make nanofibers. Now another one is system parameters. So molecular weight of polymers and its distribution play a very important role. So to give some idea how one can make this nanofibers, so you can have different type of nanofibers. You can see that this is a principle. When you apply electric field to polymer, it get electrified. So let's say you have applied a positive charge here. So positive will repel each other, and then you have a negative collector here. So this polymer will get attracted by this collector. So then this specific sort of a polymeric form, which we call Taylor cone, will form. This Taylor cone will be further collected, and then there are two repulsive between two surface charges, and Coulombic force attraction between these external. And then when you have external magnetic field, external electric field is greater than threshold electric field, then this start coming down, and then it will be collected. And this process we call stretching and whipping, by which thinning of your fibers will take place. So this is a specific way making this electrospinning setup. You can have different type of, one can make different type of porosity, aligned, high aspect ratio, and one-dimensional nanofibers of metal oxides. How I will give you some idea how you can use them of different shape and sizes. I think it is again got problem.
Please go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems it is a problematic at my side.
It is visible. It is visible. It is visible. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm not able to go on the next page. Yeah. So different effect of different process and system parameters on the nanofibers. This we have seen. For example, in this, now I think, this is the effect of process and system parameters on diameter of the nanofiber. This is sort of a manganese oxides, let's say.
Professor Sharma, your slides are not moving. It is stuck at one place. It is showing fabrication optimization, porous, aligned, high aspect ratio, and one-dimensional nanofibers of metal oxide.
Okay, let me restart it. Just hold on, I'm re-sharing it.
Yeah, you can reshare, please.
Hope it is visible now.
Yeah, it is visible now. It is visible now.
Okay, let me go to my slide where I was. So probably I was here. Right, I was here, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to make different type of manganese or some metal oxides of nanofibers, how one can make? So for this, I had said that we have two type of parameters on which using them you can change diameters of nanofibers. So dimensionality can be changed. So in this case, for example, we have changed the molecular weight of polymer in case of 40,000, and then we change same polymer PVP, polyvinyl pyrrolidinone, change from 40,000 to 3,60,000, and you find that the morphology is bit better. Here you can see some of the polymer is still we call beads, but in this case it is bit clear. Then the next one, effect of needle diameter of nanofibers. So needle, you change the needle, then the thinner diameters can be obtained. So these are some example. Then the another one is electric field. If you change the electric field, then the diameter of these nanofibers can be changed. And then polymer concentration, you change from 5%, 7%, 10%, then you will end it with different type of nanofibers of different sizes. When you change the collector of your nano spinning setup, then rectangular plate collector has this type of nanofibers, random nanofibers. However, when you have a cylindrical rotor rotating speed with 2.5 some of the revolution per minute, then you can have relatively aligned nanofiber as compared to these nanofibers. So that is the change in a collectors. And then this is an example of So now I would like to show you one video how a person can make nanofibers and how a device, how looks this electrospinning setup looks like. Then I will take to the next level to the of these devices. Let us go to the slide video. Let me stop this sharing and let me share another video to have just idea how a person can utilize this facility in terms of visibility, how a person can visible different type of nanofibers. So let me see, let me open those screen is here. So this is screen. I think my screen is now visible to you.
Yeah, it is visible.
Yeah, so let me open the videos. Video. So in this video, we don't have any audio. So just I will keep narrating along with this video. So then you may understand it how a nanofibers can be made. I hope this screen is visible like a black screen at present.
Yeah, it is black screen.
Yeah, so it will start now. So I will keep narrating along with this video.
Okay.
So I think this is actually, we start with some weighing of our polymer. So this we are making some polymer solution. So it is a solvent which we add into this polymer. And then we stir it for some time to make it clear solution. So after say 30 minutes, 40 minutes or 1 hour, it becomes clear solution. Sometimes you may take some more time. So this is now clear solution. This is a syringe which I was talking about. So if you have some metal salts, that also will be mixed into this. So this is a hypodermic syringe, and this is our equipments where you have a high voltage source of 100 kilovolt, and we load our material into it, and then there is a, in front of it you can see it is a drum which will rotate. So this is a positive potential we have applied, and now you will see that when you apply some potential, so this is a syringe tip on which you applied a positive terminal, and this is a drum on which it is a negative. So this drum is connected negative terminal. Then you close this whole chamber. In this chamber you need to fix some temperature. temperature as well as humidity. So this is a drum collection. This is rotating. So it is getting all the nanofibers. You look, some sort of thread are being extracted from this nozzle, and they are being collected at this drum. So you have applied here 20 kilovolt. So these sort of threads are being collected at the collector. So there is a specific distance between this tip to collector, which can be changed. That will be decided by how much electric field intensity you are applying. So electric field intensity is very important rather than electric field. So distance between your ejector and collector is very important. You look at this whitest color has been collected near this pump. So once it is done, then you stop it. So this is now getting collected. So this you have static charge. So earthed. Now you will take it out. You will be able to see how one can take this fibric sheet out. So this collector is an aluminum foil on which your solution got collected, and it becomes now white color. See, this is your polymeric material mixed with metal salts. It has to be dried certainly for some temperature to dry your solvent. So we usually heat under vacuum for say 12 hours to get rid of this solvent, the water sort of things which we have added in the beginning. At around 70 degrees centigrade or 80 degrees centigrade. Just to ensure that the material has been heated up nicely, then you will see that it will be ejected from, or it will be taken off or peeled off from our current collector. So we will show you how a current collector will leave, not current collector, aluminum foil on which we have collected our fibers. Now they have to be taken off. If they will be wet, then you will not be taken off. So what we need to do, we need to save them, we need to dry them, and then you will see that you can easily take it out. So this type of sheet you will make, and these are the nanofibric sheet. Once it is done, then you need to take off your fibers, I mean polymer, because you are interested in metal oxides rather polymer. So you need to heat these polymers. So after heating at a certain temperature, usually we do TGA, DTA by knowing what is the decomposition temperature of these polymers and how much the heat, weight loss, etc. So once we are done with it, then we will heat at a certain temperature with a very slow heating. because slow heating is extremely important. If you heat at the faster rate, then what will happen? Suddenly there will be a breakage of nanofibers. So you want to heat at a slow rate with a small, say 0.5 degree per minute or 1 degree per minute. So slow heating will allow you to retain your nanofibric morphology with getting rid of your what should I say, your polymer. So polymer you don't need here, but you need only metal oxides. So this you need to heat at a certain temperature. Once it is done, then you need to characterize it. So this will be like some powder, black powder sort of, or white powder. So this has been changed. So all seeds has been changed to powder. So this powder has been taken. So now I need to just stop this. And you have learned that depending upon what is your distance, what is your temperature, what is your humidity, what is your electric field intensity, what is your concentration, etc. one can do. Only problem that if you want to do this type of research, you need to have a good access or easy access to FESEM techniques, because everything has to be examined under electron microscope, so which usually takes some time. So it is almost 1 is gone. So we may take a break of 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, we will again come to this lecture. Is it fine, Professor Pandey? Can we take a bio break of 5 minutes?
Certainly, no problem.
Right.
No
So
problem.
we can have a bio break. So we will meet again after say 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
Okay. Or Dr. Y.K. Sharma, please join this meeting. Resource person Dr. Y.K. Sharma, please join now.
Okay, I think we can resume our lecture.
Yeah, yes, please, yes, please. Please continue.
Yeah. So we can make, as I told you, that we can make a different type of nanofibers with different type of properties, with different type of, for example, surface area, porosity, etc., entanglement, and then number of materials. For example, if you change into this Mn3O4 by just A, zinc, cadmium, cobalt, nickel, or all ferrites, all cobaltites, any nanostructures can be made by this versatile technique which we call electrospinning setup. So once we are done with our material and its fabrication, so we actually usually say that this material is good for, I mean, once it is characterized by some electrospinning setup, then we ended with whether this material will be good or bad, how to know that. So we actually characterize it. Characterization we do with all sorts of ways, saying starting with X-ray, XRD, XPS, PM, FES, EM, surface area measurement, and then we do refinement of structures, then FTIR, all sorts of characterization tools we apply to see whether the material has been made it with the for a purpose which we have started or not. Once it is done, then we do fabricate of device. That device fabrication, whether battery or supercapacitor, at least 50% ways are same. But I would like to show you some how to fabricate a battery, because the title is powder to power. So I would like to show you how to make batteries. So battery, the steps making in battery, or we call electrode or battery fabrication and characterization. So we do fabricate the electrode. Electrodes, how many steps there are, involvement of steps. First we take the powder, then we mixed with some sort of a conducting species, say activated carbon or amorphous carbon, and then we use some sort of binder into it. Once it is mixed, some sort of solvent which we call NMP, and once it is done, we mix it with some sort of with homogeneously mixing takes place for overnight if you don't have any vacuum mixer, and if you have vacuum mixer, then it will take around 30 minutes. I will show you another video where you will find the process how to fabricate the device. So before that, I just wanted to show you. And then once it is done, we coat it. We cut it, we coat it using doctor blade technique, and then we heat, we press between twin roller like this, and then we cut these electrodes using some dies, and then we processed it, cutting dies, and then we fabricate coin cells or Swagelok cells into our argon atmosphere, and then we actually characterized it. So how to get those things, I will show you another video where you can get some idea how one can fabricate a battery or a device. That will give you some real examples of how a person start with a powder can make a power a electronic gadgets. So let me share another video with you people. So another video is to make battery devices. So once our material is made, we do some X-ray diffractometer. We do characterization by X-ray. So I'm just showing you how to do this characterization. So it is in our lab, X-ray diffractometer. So we have made the samples, and now we want to characterize it for, say, to see whether the phases has been formed or not. So it is a loading of the sample to the diffractometer. And then we set different parameters, and once it is done, then it starts collecting the data. You would see into this right side window that some of the data will be collected between 2 theta, and some intensity will be recorded here. So once it is done, So this type of X-ray diffraction will be coming on your screen. So once it is done that you have made the material and your testing is done, then you take this powder material to make the device. So for making the device, you need to go with mixing with some sort of carbon, your material. So because you need to use your material, so we use some amorphous carbon to give some sort of conductivity to the individual metal oxide. And because we want to bind the individual particle to the current collector, so we also give sort of binder, which is PVDF in this case. So we will show that PVDF will also be taken into some proportion. For example, 70, 15, 15, we take the proportion, and then that will be mixed later. So this is our active material mixed with conducting carbon. So it has been taken and then it will be mixed again. So we want to ensure that the weight is correct, because weight is very important. So this balance is a micro balance which can go up to 6 decimal place. So we do very carefully this measurement, because this all about to your proportionality and stoichiometry. So now this is your material mixed with conducting carbon. Now we need to use some binder. So binder will be added, you will see. So this mixture, it has to be mixed carefully, and it should be homogeneous mixing. If it will not be homogeneous, then you will never know where is your active material and where is your. So this is the PVDF solution. So some of the weight percent has been taken and then it will be mixed. So this is binder, which will bind the particles to your current collector. So once measurement is done, this will be loaded into a vacuum mixer. So this whole material which was mixed independently will be poured into this drum. And then your binder into it. Once it is added, then you will add this cover. So this is a blade which will mix it. So this has to be mixed carefully to make a homogeneous slurry. So once it is done, then it will be taken to the next mixture, which is a vacuum mixture. Certainly it will be loaded into it. It is fixed, and then some of the time will be fixed, and then vacuum. So all the gases, whatever the oxygen was there in container, that will be taken out, and then you will be fixing, say, about 30 minutes or 20 minutes depending upon your surface viscosity of the solution, and then we will start it. So Over the period, your time will be goes down. So see 39 second, 37, 36. So it is going down. And once it is done, you will take it out and then you will pour on a substrate. So we will show you how a substrate and how it looks like and how this material will be coated on a substrate. So this is our substrate which we call current collector. So it is a copper foil which is being used for anode. So this is current collector semi-metti and it is a coater or Dr. Blade technique. So here you have some vacuum chucks. These vacuum chucks will suck it and will make a perfect horizontal surface over which using this blade thickness can be maintained. So here we usually make a 30 micron or 25 micron thick film over this substrate. So now we take it out. We pour on this substrate. So now it becomes a homogeneous sort of ink, right? So whole material, your powder mixed with conducting carbon and binder, and now this blade plunger will start plunging it, and then you will see a thin film, a thick film of the thickness around 25 micron will be made. See, it is nicely coated over a current collector. Look. So whatever the way I am showing you is the industry way, but at the larger scale industry does. In a lab scale, we do the small equipment. Rest thing is always same as if you are fabricating a device in your lab. So once it is coated, you dry it under vacuum because you want to evaporate your solvent which was used here. So solvent is NMP, N-methyl pyrrolidinone. So that NMP will be going off at a temperature say 62 degrees, 60 to 70 degree, and then you will be ended with a dried, coated sheet which will be further dried in your chamber, and once it is done overnight, then you need to pass it on through this twin roller which we call calendering. Calendering means you are pressing your material with your roller which will intimate contact. So contact will be intimated. And then we want to make a coin device. So for this, you need to cut electrodes. So cutting the electrodes, you will cut with this die. Now you could see the die is cutting it. This different parts of battery, we take, it is a different part. Sorry, let me take it. Yeah, these are the, so once the electrodes have been cut, so these are the electrodes which are 20 mm in a dia, and this is a part which we call spacer in a coin cell battery, which we use to weld it by a spot welder. And then we want to weigh our electrode, how much weight on the electrode, which we call active material. So we do almost 30 cell testing with material and without material to ensure the weight of electrode has been taken correctly. So once it is done, they will be dried further in a vacuum oven at 80 degrees centigrade or 70 degrees centigrade, 70 to 80 degree overnight, to ensure that there is no oxygen or humid on the surface of the material, because it has to pass through a inert atmosphere where fabrication of device will be taken place. So this will be covered and entered into glove box. This glove box maintain argon atmosphere. So it is purging going on. So argon will be filled into this antechamber, and then you will pass on your sample into it. Once it is done, then you can insert your material inside it, and again you will purge argon into it. So multiple times purging and evacuation takes place to ensure that this box does not have any water or oxygen. Otherwise, whole glove box will be contaminated, and because lithium metal will be inside this glove box, so lithium battery is going to fabricate. So we want to ensure that there is no moisture and no oxygen inside it. So we do this for whole. So multiple two to three times we do purging of gas into antechamber, which is we call a small antechamber. So this vacuum is slow, so it should not be very quick. So now you are inserting your hand into glove box by reducing pressure into it. And these are the different parts which we have heated into it, and it is the lower part. Now you are putting your electrode here. Once it is done, then you will be pouring some electrolyte, which is a liquid electrolyte here. Once it is completely wet, then you use a separator, which will be separating your both the electrodes. And then this is a lithium metal. And it is a upper lid. So you will press it little bit. The tweezer which is being used, it is of completely of plastic, so that the short circuiting of battery will not take place. And now this is our crimping machine, which will hermetically, it will be sealed. So you will clean it. If there is some peeling of electrolyte, probably if it is excess, and now you see it is a 3.4 volt battery, 3.3, then you can take it out. So after fabricating this your cell, you will age it for say 12 hours, and then you will put it. Then this is the testers of batteries. We do testing. So it is a coin cell testers, cyclability testers. We have different type of cells, holders to do all charge, discharge, cycling, etc. in our lab. Now we also have a bigger equipments where we do fabricate this mobile battery. In mobile battery, these are the different equipments which we have in our lab at present. So we have not shown the fabrication of pouch cell. Pouch cell is a battery, it is another globe box, the bigger globe box. So these are the pouch cells you can see here, which are being tested with this equipments. So it is a crimping machine, it is a die cutter, it is a ultrasonic welder, and this is a paper cut machine. It is another a crimp. This is welding machine. It is another globe box, the bigger globe box. Inside it, we also have another this packing machine which will pack it. And then these are the cycler, and these are the bigger batteries, mobile batteries, which has been testing. These are the batteries which being tested by us. So this is a mobile battery. So it's all about how to fabricate a battery, and I have shown you that how one can make a battery using different materials. So starting with your powder, how to make the powder, how to characterize the powder, and then how to make your batteries. So now this session is open for question answer. If you don't ask any question, I will ask question later. So, but I will give you time to you to raise your hands for any sort of inquiry which you have, or any sort of discussion you want to have with me. I am available now for discussion.
So, well, Dr. Sarma, very well presentation that you have made. Our session is open for the discussion. If you are having any question, any doubt, anything, that 10 minutes time is left over. So please raise your hands, or directly you can ask the question. Anupam Sahu.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Am I audible? Hello?
Yes,
Please
I am
continue.
listening.
Please continue.
Yes, sir. For this battery anode fabrication, if I take activated carbon material as the material and conductive carbon material and get it tested, that will give good results, sir?
Anupamaji, I am not able to listen you. Probably you have your mobile or your device with you. It is echoing. So I am not able to listen you. Whatever you speak, I am sorry. Professor Pandey, can you actually repeat her question?
Hello?
Yes, Anupama. Now you can speak. Yes.
So for this anode, if I take activated carbon material,
Right.
and this conductive carbon and this additive.
Yes.
So my question is, in my research, my base material is activated carbon material, that is itself conducting and porous. So is it I require any extra conductive material to added like carbon black material, or only activated carbon and binder I can use for anode material?
Yeah, I think the see conductivity always useful for if your material does not conduct. If your material is conducting porous itself, then you don't need any conducting carbon or any amorphous carbon or black carbon separately. You can use your material with binder itself.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Second question from Anil Gopal Patil.
Sir, in this type of battery, hello?
Yes, yes, please.
Sir, in this type of battery, copper foil acts as
Yes,
an
continue,
anode.
please.
Copper foil acts as an anode. Then what is the thickness of that copper foil?
The copper foil thickness is around 20 micron, 10 to 20 micron.
10 to 20 micron. Okay, and that the carbon is whether it is a beaded activated carbon?
Yeah, it is activate. It is carbon is amorphous carbon, not beaded. It is a powdery form.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other question from the participant side? Please don't hesitate if you are having any question, any discussion you want, or anything, any information. If you want to have any information, so if there is no further question, then let us thank the speaker for a nice presentation. Thank you, Professor Sharma. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there is one question.
There's some questions are there. That is
Yeah.
Sir, good afternoon, and thank you for the wonderful session.
Rupakula Ramakrishna.
Yes. So I want to know, like, when any kind of powder, when you are making it solid, so will the physical properties will get changed, or will they remain same? Hello, am I clear?
Yeah, I got your
Please
question.
speak slightly loudly. Did not.
Powder, the physical properties of this powder remain same. The whatever I have shown you, it is a powdery form. The nanofiber at a nanoscale, on a micro scale, it is a fiber. So I use those fiber itself. And when you grind it, it does not change its dimensionality further. So we have examined whether the nanofiber remains nanofiber after mixing with conducting carbon, etc. It remains because we don't apply that much of binding. We don't mix it or grind it for longer time just to mix the conducting carbon and our fiber. That's it. We don't grind it to reduce its size further.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any other question, please? Please, Pratap Singh, please go ahead. Please, Pratap Singh, if you are having any question, please. If you want to ask anything. Vishesh Shukla, do you want to ask anything here? So I think Vishesh Shukla, yes, please continue.
Yes, sir. Sir, my voice is coming.
Yeah, it is. Continue, please continue.
Yes, sir. I want to ask that how to when we can simply make battery material by just applying the coating. If I don't have all the setup and I want to make simply by just coating, so it will be it can be done or not. It will be difficult.
Yeah, the process, whatever is required, that is required. But just to do some work, whether it will have, because calendaring is important, mixing is important, and if you don't have this, you don't usually, the performance will not be good. However, you can start working. That is not a hard and fast rule. If we don't have all the equipments, it doesn't matter, but we need to know whether these are the important aspects or procedures which we have to follow.
Yes, yes. Yes, sir.
Any other question, please? So there is no further question. Then let us thank the speaker once again. So Professor Sharma, that's very good
Thank you,
presentation.
sir.
Good.
Thank you from my side, and all the best. Yeah.
Okay. So there is an announcement to the participants that I have uploaded the link of the 3 videos that we have recorded on the basis of the study lecture. That is, all the 3 lectures are available on YouTube. So YouTube link that has been given on the chat box. You can see that just now that I have uploaded it. So you can have the access of all the 3 lectures which has been delivered yesterday. So whatsoever the lecture that I will be completing today, so that will also be uploaded there on the YouTube. So very easy that one can get the access of all these lectures. So let us stop this session, and we will meet at 3 p.m. So the next session that will start